Today's history lesson, I like to reminisce about the old days, but we're really going back today. We're going to go back to uh, the early 1800s, 1700s, when our country was formed. The women quilted, and it's a lost art, but it's not dead by any means. There's been a resurgence uh, just in the last 10 years. Women are going back to it. I think they just need something to do with their hands and I don't know what the reason honestly is, but anyway, this quilt that I'm holding is 65 years old at least. Maybe more. This is a queen size quilt. But I wanted to show it to you today so you understand the importance of families and quilting. This is all, we don't think of anything that's not made on a sewing machine. This is all made by hand. That means some little lady put two pieces of fabric together and sewed it all by hand like you would on a sewing machine. And someone made these blocks. My customer that wants me to hand quilt it had the blocks. There's huge blocks. I think they're like 18 inches, which is very uncommon nowadays. But these had sat in a drawer, a chest, for all of these years. And then another aunt put them together into a quilt. But then it needed to be quilted. Well, there's not many people that do that anymore, hand quilting. You might find them on one hand in a big city. But it needs to be hand quilted to go with the period of time, the age of the quilt. And so I am hand quilting it very simple and very simplistic, and just outlining the Victorian ladies, and maybe put a flower here where the big spaces are. But I'm trying to match. And also, I don't want to handle it a whole lot because it is so old. But quilts go back 300 years for our nation. We're fixing to celebrate our 250th year as a country. And all that time, there has been quilting. Women quilted out of necessity. It wasn't just to have a hobby like we do these days. It was out of necessity. If you wanted to stay warm in the wintertime, you had to have heavy quilts. If you've ever had one that your great-grandmother made that you will remember, that quilt is heavy. And you think, well, how did they move underneath it at night? Well, they didn't, probably. But boy, it kept them warm. And that's what quilts were for. Well, in the beginning, they were quite simple. They were just blocks and triangles, and they didn't have fancy rulers to cut things out. Just think about this. Everything was cut out by hand, by a pair of scissors. They probably didn't even have patterns. They created their own patterns. And patterns that we use today, blocks, you can go back to the 250 years old. The slaves in the Civil War quilted, and they had what you call the Underground Railroad. And they took the slaves up north to escape from the South. Well, they used quilts as kind of a signal, an underlying message. And you could innocently put a quilt out over a fence rail like it was drying without being noticed. And the pattern was the message. And if you'll Google that, you will find there was at least 6 or 7 different patterns that had definite messages. Now, they say there's no documentation for that. Well, of course not. It was secret. The Underground Railroad was secret, and they didn't publish all of that. But one voice has told another voice and on down throughout the ages. So we know that there was such a thing and that they did use the quilts. Another thing about quilting is the history of it is the Amish community. They are pioneers of quilting. And if you've ever seen one of their quilts, they're just outstanding. Of course, in different parts of the country, the Amish are different. And they have the look of their quilts are different in each area. Just like I have an Amish cookbook. And the Amish cook different in each section of the United States that they're in. It's fascinating. That is the best cookbook I've ever had in my whole life, just for the information in it and the history. So quilting is just, oh my goodness, it's a necessity. It still, I guess, could be a necessity, but I doubt it. But you know, the Amish just used about 3 colors prominently, was black, gray, and white. And they added, now remember, they dyed their own wool and their own fabrics. They wove them into fabric. I mean, they started from scratch. So they just did the 3 main colors for many years. And well, they started adding maybe a touch of red and a touch of, it was an amber color, a gold. But these were considered show-off colors. And they were used very sparingly because the Amish people are a very religious people. And they felt that they were too showy, so they used them sparingly. Nowadays, you can go up in Missouri and Kansas and on around in that area, and maybe there's lots of other areas, and they sell their quilts, and they are more, shall we say, modernized nowadays. But still, there's the basics. You can just tell they still follow the basics. So that's just something I wanted you to think about in the history of quilting. If you know a quilter, tell them, oh, I think you're just doing wonderful. And thank you for keeping this art going. It's truly something to keep going, and I hope we do. I hope we never lose. My mother always used to say, Lord, don't take away my eyesight or the use of my hands, so she could sit there and work on something. All right, thank you for joining me for this little lesson on quilting. God bless until we meet again.